Good afternoon and welcome to Deacon Recruiting's Wine and Wisdom. I'm Lauren Costley and I have the absolute pleasure of being right next to our founder and CEO and Deacon for our first segment today. First ever segment, so I hope you're tuning in. Today's topic is about building your personal brand, which I know everybody would love to hear some tips on that, whether it be professionally or personally. So Anne, we're super excited to have you today, and we're going to go ahead and take it away and tell us a little bit about why personal branding is so important.
Thanks, Lauren. So much fun to be here, right?
Yes.
And more fun that we have a glass of wine in
That's
front
right.
of us.
Cheers.
Yes, love
Yes.
it. Cheers to you. So personal brand is that, let's talk about what it is first, right? So It's that conversation that's happening in the room about you when you're not in the same room, right? With those peers, professional friends, whomever it is. So this is a hot topic in that I started being aware of this when I was a young professional, actually in public accounting. And I'm like, what are those people saying about me when I'm actually not present? And how important it is that you really are mindful about what's that image you want to portray. So that's really what personal brand is. So I've been working on it for Deacon Recruiting for the last 25 years recruiting.
So I think the first question we need to go into is the professional question of personal branding, which is how do you do that through a resume?
Right, great question, right? We all worry about that, whether it's through your resume, your CV, or your bio. That, by the way, you should always have an updated bio. And that's, I think a lot of us think that the resume is putting down your job description, job responsibilities, when in fact, it's really talking about what your legacy is. So whether your legacy in your current role, what your legacy has been in your previous roles, and really talking about statistical information, because we know that people remember the numbers. So everyone affects the bottom line of an organization. So being able to put that down in written form, that's really what we want to see as interviewers. We don't really want to see your job responsibilities in the document. We want to learn more about you through the legacy of what your legacy is in your current position.
Well, we are back. And we are having some, and this is hilarious. Thomas has only had a couple sips of this wine, by the way, but we are back. We were having some technical difficulties, and where we left off was about personal branding through the resume. And Anne was actually sharing some really great tips that it is about your legacy, and it's about the story you tell through your resume. And so we kind of covered the written form. Now we want to discuss, Anne, the question we have is if you're in person and having that first interview, what does the storytelling look like for somebody that's going in person, and how do they share their personal brand verbally? Awesome question. So really, really important when you're being interviewed that, and most of us know this as behavioral style interviewing, when in essence, that's just storytelling. So what we want to hear is, when asked a question in an interview, is think of it as storytelling from the very beginning. And then I want you to take me all the way through the conclusion of whether it be a project you were working on, and I want to hear the specifics. I love the details. And so most interviewers really want to hear the details. And why is that important? Because then we know that you did it, that you were part of that project, that you were part of that success. So really thinking about storytelling. And what do we always say? 99%, what is it? 99% is preparation and 1% is execution. Yeah. And it's kind of like today, like, well, we
did prepare for today, but yet we're just moving.
Kind of winging it.
Yeah, we're kind of winging it.
And by the way, somebody asked me earlier, what wine are you guys drinking? And I'm like, well, it happens to be a Chardonnay from Mendoza. I think it's a 2012. So cheers, friends.
Cheers.
To you.
Yes.
Here's your Friday afternoon.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's, if I could just add, I think it's really important that your personal brand is also, when you're going to an interview, is very much about your professional storytelling. So I think that's also a really important tip when you're either in person or your resume is to keep it professional as well. So the big question is, in today's age, is social media, right? We're on it right now on Facebook. But Anne, can you share with us some tips, specifically with LinkedIn on social media, and how do you tell and share your personal brand through LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think the very first thing most of us look at is the photo, whatever format of social media you're on, right? So
I think it's really, the number one thing is to make sure that your photo is professional. It's a headshot only, it's not the full body.
No.
And that it's the image that you want to portray.
Yeah.
And it's your brand. The visual as well as the written form is really our brand that we're building. So, and then the second piece of that in LinkedIn is really what's your bio? And does that bio, the bio is the piece right, the verbiage right underneath your photo, and is that telling what your area of expertise is, right?
Absolutely.
So, and is it, so it's all alignment. So when I'm looking at, and by the way, when we're interviewing internally, we have a very defined process. And one of the things I want to know is, I go on LinkedIn and I want to see what are they talking about? Because I know this person's writing their own LinkedIn bio, so I want to make sure it's really aligned with our organization. It's all about alignment, right?
Absolutely.
So, which in essence is building the brand.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because as a recruiter that works at Full Desk, we actually have seen more and more clients ask us about our candidates' social media, and that can be from LinkedIn to Facebook and what that looks like. So just really be mindful that everyone's watching, it's public, and make sure that it aligns, whether it's in the resume, it's in person on that first round interview, or it's on your LinkedIn, that all of that just really is consistent in your personal brand. So great. And then, Anne, I have another question for you. Everybody, especially if you do not enjoy public speaking, how do you share your personal brand in your elevator speech?
Oh my goodness. So, well, first of all, I really think it is the image. It's the nonverbal, right? So what do they say about the nonverbal communication, how impactful that is, whether it is the elevator speech, literally, or are you in a meeting with your peers, your executives, and really how are you, again, it's the nonverbal to, what do they say, what's the statistic on that? Like 85% is nonverbal. I mean, it's just crazy, right?
Absolutely.
So again, preparation with the elevator speech about being open. What we're doing today is letting you inside our house, because we're super open, we're very transparent, and that's really kind of what we want to portray to you guys today is we want you to come into our house and know Deacon a little bit better. And we're very open to answering any of your questions. We're very fortunate that we have 25 years of experience in this industry, in this marketplace. It's really a global marketplace that we're dealing with today, although we're physically in San Antonio. So we're very open to sharing it. We started with personal brand topic as our very first topic because I really am passionate about helping young professionals, making sure that they understand how to build their personal brand. And that really starts at the very beginning, really in your, whether you're an undergrad or getting your master's or really in your first position, or like me, that you've been around for 25 years. And what does that sound like? And when I say sound like, because again, just to reiterate, the personal brand is the conversation that's happening about you when you're not in the room.
Right.
So I'm really curious on what's to come. We're doing this, I think, once a month now, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we actually have a question from the audience or from our followers. And so I think one question that I always hear too is, how can I increase my exposure in personal branding? What are some tips, Anne, that you would maybe suggest of getting out there beyond the resume, beyond social media? What could you do to build your personal brand as a professional?
Yeah, so I think, it's interesting. We were talking about personal branding last week, and one of our newest young professionals that's in her 20s said, my generation is not really interested in going to these networking events. That's not who we're about. And I get that. I'm like, be genuine. Be comfortable with who you are. It's not that you have to go to things or, meetings and if you don't have a personal connection, because I think people pick up on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So find out that one area that you're really passionate about, that you want to be involved in. I always say that be involved, get in the organization, if it's a volunteer organization, make an impact, and then exit. So I think being passionate about whatever the topic is, and you're always going to do a better job. Same thing in finding a position. I think that alignment with the organization is so critical. And I think that you have to be passionate about it. And if you're not, then it's okay to move on. And I think most employers today, it's really important that it's all about engagement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you find yourself no longer aligned with your organization, have a good, honest conversation with your direct. And they too want you to be happy.
Absolutely.
And make a difference. So this has been fun today, Lauren.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me.
Yes, this has been great. So cheers.
Oh my gosh.
I think we have maybe
Yes.
one or two more
Awesome.
questions.
So can I give a tip about
Yes,
making
absolutely.
it cheers?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So one of our Deaconites years ago, who was with us for about 5 or 6 years, she said, "Oh my goodness." So we believe in really working hard and playing hard at Deacon, and so we seem to celebrate a lot, right?
Yeah, we do.
All the
we work hard,
successes,
like
right?
really hard.
And so she said, "Oh gosh, Ann, so when you make a toast, please be sure you look the other person in the eye,
Mm-hmm.
and that you then toast them, and then that you actually take a sip of whatever's in your hand, whether it be alcoholic or non-alcoholic."
Yeah.
We happen to be enjoying, I think I said a Mendoza wine,
There's a line.
2014.
So if you have water, soda, wine, whatever your beverage is, toast with us as we talk about personal brands. That's what this whole afternoon is about for Wine and Wisdom. And truly appreciate you guys being here. I think we have just a couple more questions for this segment. And a question came in, Ann, about when do I have to work on my personal brand? You know, what stage in my career? I've been doing it 2 years and I've been an HR director, or I've been here 20 years. I mean, when do you think that really matters?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think that you start today if you haven't started.
Mm-hmm.
And think about how you want to be perceived in your community, in your office, and then you start working on the image that you want to portray.
Mm-hmm.
And being true to yourself, I think, is the most important
Yes,
thing.
love being true to yourself. And you have to have those core value alignment to whatever your personal and professional brand is as well.
Well, it looks like we're getting so
many
all our
questions.
followers.
I think
Okay,
we're
we
making
love this.
we're making it rain questions over here. So and I'm not quite sure if I understand if it. Oh, so that's the question, Ann. Is it, you know, when I get up in the morning? Is it when I'm at the gym? Is it when I'm at church? Or is it, you know, at the interview? What part of my day is when you share your personal brand?
Well, so I'm speaking my personal experience, right? I
Yeah.
hope that's what you guys want to hear. And it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is really in everything I do. So, you know, I guess I really didn't become probably mindful of it until I was in public accounting. So my very first professional position. I think it just kind of happened naturally for me. And so I became aware of, you know, how did I want to be projected? What did I want to project, and how did I want to be perceived by my partners? How did I want to be perceived by my clients?
Mm-hmm.
And being just aware of that, I think, is the very first thing.
Yeah, I would actually, if I could comment on that, you know, knowing Ann for the last 7 years, I think that part of anybody's personal brand, whatever that is about being consistent with it and also being incredibly authentic. And I think, Ann, I would cheers to you. Actually, we're going to cheers again and looking in the eye. That it is about being consistent and authentic, and Ann has always been exactly that, whether she's, you know, out with her family or she's at an event or here in our offices. That is something that I've always really admired about Ann, is that you know exactly what you're going to get with Ann Deacon. So absolutely. Do we have any other questions?
We do have one question. What is the biggest change you've seen in the last 25 years in regards to what candidates are seeking?
What candidates are seeking?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I think one of the greatest things, and I talked about this at a national conference recently, is that, you know, candidates are really, they want to be heard. They want to be engaged. They want to be a part of the organization. They want to feel like they know the organization. They want to feel like they know the CEO. And, you know, we're fortunate that I'm the founder as well. So that's really kind of unique for this organization. But I love it. I love that in 25 years, we have a much more educated candidate pool. We have a much more educated client pool. I think the clients really, client companies is what I'm referring to. They really want their candidates and employees to be engaged, and they've asked us as consultants, how can we do that better? And so we have had the opportunity to work very closely with our client companies in San Antonio and really nationally about how they can improve on their candidate employee engagement. And I just love it. I love that the candidates really want to make a difference. And they're really asking great questions. And I think that really candidates are better prepared today. And, you know, there's never a bad question. We come from a place that we would rather you ask and be prepared and be knowledgeable. And it really makes a difference. So it's been an exciting 25 years. You know, our business has not changed from a dairy perspective, but the reality is the candidate, the client companies really have changed in a very positive way. So it's been really an exciting 25 years, and it's really crazy to stand here with Lauren and say Lauren's been here 7 years, and the 25 years go fast. So I would tell you, I try to make a difference every day. It may not be like huge, but as everybody knows here, I take 7 items a day, and that's what I try to accomplish every single day. Is just 7 things on my to-do list.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ann, so much for kicking this off for our first Wine and Wisdom with Deacon Recruiting. Your knowledge is recognized, actually, Ann, is, if you don't know that, highly recognized throughout our entire nation as being a top recruiter, and now running such a successful business here, an executive search firm for 25 years. So I appreciate everything you've given. I hope that all of you watching have received some great tips that you can take and some action items that you can take with you so that you can find your next best career. And then we would like to make sure that we recognize that our next segment will be Friday, November 15th. And we hope that we have an even bigger audience, maybe a little bit less technical difficulties, but we want to continue this monthly. This is Ann's vision, as well as our marketing director. And so we want to make sure that we continue that. So please join us on Friday, November 15th. And Ann, thank you again for sharing your wisdom.
So much fun.
Cheers,
Thank you, Lauren.
Cheers.
And cheers to you and your success.
Yes.